There have been medium-sized wars with a lower death toll than this latest installment in the murderous life of John Wick, as usual played by Keanu Reeves with an unyielding frown and words of mostly one syllable. The average lifespan of an extra in John Wick, Chapter 4 can't be more than 5 seconds, from first appearance to termination by bullet, blade or collision with a hard surface. The corollary to this, as ever, is the indestructibility of Wick himself. He is the Rasputin of the action genre, repelling attempted assassinations like you or I might fend off bluebottle. Of course, our laconic, lank-haired hero has been doing this since the first film in the series, back in 2014, when he came out of retirement because someone killed his puppy. Prior to that, you'll recall, he had been the world's greatest assassin. Usefully, now that he's in the business of avoiding rather than delivering the chop, he's still the world's greatest. The alarming velocity with which speeding cars strike him, and indeed with which he strikes the ground after leaping through sixth-floor windows, is never quite enough to leave him with more than a temporary limp. As for the plot, which whisks us from New York to Paris by way of Osaka and Berlin, that need hardly detain us. Mind you, I sometimes wonder whether the John Wick writers regret calling their shadowy organization of bad is the High Table. Ian Fleming knew what he was doing when he chose Spectre. But the High Table just doesn't cut it, especially when it is shortened to the table. If only Wick were able to laugh, which he hasn't done since the distressing puppy affair. It would surely tickle him to hear that the table has taken out an $18 million hit on him. Anyway, the chair of the table is an aristocratic French dandy, the Marquis de Gramont, whose strategy for dispatching Wick risks falling between several stools. Among those heavily invested in our hero's fate in this ambitious hybrid of an action movie and an IKEA store are an African-American mercenary with a menacing dog, a resourceful Japanese hotelier, a gold-toothed gambler, and a blind but brilliant swordsman called Kane. Ian McShane, Lawrence Fishburne, and the late Lance Reddick, in his last screen role, all reprised their characters from the previous films, supplying gravitas by the thimble load. That's about the right measure because this movie can't afford to take itself too seriously. It can't afford a running time of well over 2.5 hours. But director Chad Stahelski evidently couldn't resist. The result is overkill in more ways than one. All that said, there are some extraordinary fight sequences, leavened with cherishable wit. I loved a scene by the Arc de Triomphe which gives a considerable twist to the everyday difficulty of crossing the road in Paris. And Stahelski pays his own unique form of homage to the great comedy stars of the silent era by having Wick fight his way up the 222 steps to the Sacre-Cœur Basilica only, repeatedly, to tumble all the way down again. Even within such a violent context, it's great slapstick. Buster Keaton, I fancy, would have doffed his pork pie hat in respect.